Welcome into Weather Wednesday here at New England Storm Center. So, there is likely a snowstorm on the way to New England. This will be a benchmark type nor'easter. We published an article going over the benchmark coming into this winter. Basically, if the storm center passes over the benchmark, it can bring the heaviest snow totals to much of southern and central New England, while leaving northern New England more left out. This is, of course, if the cold air is in place, and there will be cold air in place. A cold front will drop through New England on Thursday. This front will drop high temperatures from the 40s, where they've been, down to the 30s. This will allow the storm to be mostly snow for all of New England, with the exception of the coastline, where mixing and rain will continue to be possible due to the warmer air over the ocean, with ocean temperatures still running in the low to mid 40s. Of course, that marine air will influence the weather right along the coast. How much and how intense the snowfall is remains the big question. Right now, it still looks likely, like it did yesterday, that a jackpot zone of 5 to 8 inches will occur somewhere in southern New England. Where exactly this zone sets up will be determined by the exact track. Yesterday, we laid out three potential outcomes for this storm based on three major models, what those models were showing. This morning, the storm has trended a bit further south to the outside of the benchmark in a few of these major models. This would lead to lighter snow, especially further north. The Euro still has the storm a bit more northerly, closer to the benchmark, which would lead to higher snowfall totals. So basically, the further south in New England you are, the higher the chances of seeing more snow, with those chances dropping as you head further north. Uh, the exception would the exception to this would be again near the coast, where, as we said before, some mixing and rain is likely, which would naturally keep the snowfall amounts down. The energy from this storm is elongated with a secondary area of low pressure near the Great Lakes, while the coastal low moves through New England or likely just offshore of New England. The storm will keep on moving rather than stalling out. These two factors will prevent this from being a really large snowstorm with, 18, 24 plus inch amounts and blizzard conditions. That's not going to happen. Most areas are currently looking to stay in the single digits for snowfall, with 2 to 3 inch an hour rates unlikely. The storm will likely be a 24-hour event starting Saturday evening and lasting through Sunday evening. So I would say kind of a moderate duration snowstorm. This is the main factor on why snowfall amounts will be where they are, is that the snow is going to continue for probably a full day's worth of time, even though the snowfall rates won't get really intense. The overall strength of the storm will naturally come into play when figuring out the exact amounts. This is still a big uncertainty just how strong this storm will be able to get. The main storm center is still over the Pacific Ocean as of Wednesday morning. Models will continue to vary quite a bit until this energy piece gets into the upper air pattern over land. I would expect a much clearer idea of what to expect by Thursday morning. We'll need to watch the trends very closely over the next 24 hours to see just what this storm will have to offer and where. After this storm, the stormy times will continue for New England, with a potentially potent storm with strong winds and heavy precipitation coming through, getting toward the middle of next week. The atmosphere does look like it will be primed for heavy rain or snow. With this storm being a week out, there's plenty of time to watch the trends on this one, but models have been pretty consistent over the last couple days that a decent storm will come through. New England does look to remain in a trough, which would allow for more stormy or unsettled weather to continue. We did go over this recently when we talked about a negative NAO coming into play as we went into the new year. Negative NAO does support cooler weather and stormier weather, and that's what we are getting here to kick off 2024. I also just want to quickly go over the 5 weather-defining moments of 2023 for New England. We published this article at newenglandstormcenter.com last week, so I just want to quickly go over what the 5 events were here on Weather Wednesday. Number 5 was the early February Arctic blast. We saw wind chills of -30 to -60 across New England. -61 in Frenchville, Maine was the lowest in a populated place. There was a ground blizzard in northern Maine. We also saw that now famous -108-degree wind chill at Mount Washington summit. Number 4 was the Great Nor'easter of 2023, where parts of New England saw over 40 inches of snow. This was enough to land this storm at number 3 all time in the New England Snowstorm Hall of Fame. You can also see that at newenglandstormcenter.com. Number 3 was the December cyclone, a last minute entry, but it brought historic flooding to Maine along with hurricane force winds. We had to put this one into this list here at the last minute. I actually made this list at the beginning of December before this storm happened. And for the curious ones that want to know which event got bumped out of this 5 list, number 5 previously before this storm was Leominster's flash flood emergency. Of course, once this one slid into number 3, the ones above it were pushed up. Number 2 was the EF2 tornado in Rhode Island. This was the strongest in New England in about a decade and the strongest in Rhode Island in nearly 40 years. Number 1 was, of course, the Great Flood of 2023. This was a storm that brought over 9 inches of rain to parts of Vermont and is now one of the worst floods in Vermont history, joining 1927, 1973, and 2011 in the record books. Thankfully, this flood had a very minimal loss of life. Considering how this flood unfolded, it's very, very fortunate that there was not a greater loss of life during this storm. This was a very serious storm that hit Vermont, very serious for New England. You can see more details on these events in the article that we published at newenglandstormcenter.com. You can just search for, 5 weather defining moments and it will come right up. So that is going to do it for this edition of the Weather Wednesday here at New England Storm Center. So, as always, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and you will hear from me again next Wednesday.